I honestly never thought that I'd become the vinyl guy because on the surface it's extremely not minimalist. It's very expensive, it requires a lot of space, it requires maintenance, the records deteriorate over time, and you can get all of the same things on a streaming service for way less money and way more conveniently on any internet connected device that you have. But there is more important things that I found and why I prefer vinyl to streaming. And it really comes down to convenience versus quality. I'm not talking about sound quality either. I'm talking about the quality of experience. And I found that with vinyl records is actually an extremely minimalist thing to do because with minimalism it's all about doing less but doing it better. Although it's way less convenient than streaming, there's no arguing that. I find that I enjoy listening to records more than I do streaming songs. I was actually scared to cancel my Spotify subscription because music is extremely important to me. I listen to music pretty much at all points during the day, and it's extremely convenient to be able to do that wherever you are on whatever device you have with you. And with vinyl records, you're more committed to listening to it in one place wherever your record player is. But I found out that fear was kind of stupid because I quickly learned that I don't need to have music pumped into my ears at all points during the day for all hours that I'm working or for all hours that I'm driving a car. When I canceled my Spotify subscription, it went from incidental listening, like listening to music while doing other things, to actually committing and sitting down with a record and listening to it front to back. And those points during the day that I would just listen to music in the background that I no longer do, it's fine. Silence is fine. And I found that I've been conditioned to be distracted living in this internet connected age where we have to be stimulated constantly at all times. And it's actually kind of relaxing just to be able to sit down and edit a video for hours on end without having any background music so I could just actually focus on what I'm doing. Honestly, I don't really miss streaming music at all. The main thing is that you're listening to music not on an internet-connected device, and as a person who was born in 1996, I've seen the entire transition from cassettes to CDs to MP3s to streaming. And back when I was a kid, we bought CDs, and that's how we listened to music until LimeWire and downloading viruses became a thing. But even my first exposure to music was through listening to CDs. I bought my first CD when I was 9 or 10 years old with a Target gift card that I got for my birthday, and it was Demon Days by Gorillaz, which I still need to reacquire. And because that was pretty much my only CD that I had to myself and that wasn't shared between the family, I listened to it over and over and over again, and I read the lyric sheet while I was listening to it. I learned the lyrics front to back of that CD, and I even started drawing the art repeatedly over and over again and handing out the hand-drawn album cover to my classmates at school, to the point where I became the best artist in my elementary school class. This was my experience as a kid, being able to hold the music, know the lyrics, read all the thank yous, see the credits for who played bass on what song, and seeing art that doesn't exist other than in a physical format. The greatest thing is that you don't have to be connected to the internet and a million distractions to listen to music on vinyl. When I was listening to music on streaming services, I found that I very rarely just sat down, did nothing else, and listened to the music because I was looking at an internet-connected device with a million and one distractions, and I would just end up listening to the music in the background, and that's not really how the artist intended to listen. Because these artists, they spend a year or two crafting these albums. Everything from the visual arts, the musical arts, the arrangements, the instruments, the getting good at what they're playing. There is so much that goes in producing an album that, for me, it deserves my full attention to truly be appreciated. And when I give it my full attention, I find that I appreciate it a lot more. And artists, they write albums. They don't just write single songs to be flung into a playlist for when you're working out. The album is the home of the song, and it makes a lot more sense and means a lot more when it's put into the context of the other songs. One of the great things about vinyl is that it's really hard to skip songs. Like, you have to lift the needle and then gently put it back down, so the vast majority of the time, I am just listening to full albums front and back as the artist intended. And because of that, I'm noticing a lot of little details in songs and between songs that I wouldn't have noticed if I wasn't listening to the complete album in order as the artist intended. A really fun thing about vinyl is that it makes the music tangible. You can literally hold the music. And Lights by Journey is #1 on the disc, and you can see it right there, and all the songs are physically etched into the disc. It doesn't matter if you don't have a record player, as long as you can scratch something into those grooves that will vibrate and produce the sound, you can hear the song. Right now I don't have my speakers powered on, and you can still hear the music. That needle is just physically vibrating and producing those sound waves, which is just a really kind of like low-tech thing that's really charming and fun. And the turntable itself is just incredibly simple. It's just a motor that's spinning at 33 1/3 RPM. I really like this turntable because it's basically a bicycle the way it's constructed. I like bicycles. Vinyl also makes the music a lot more digestible. You could physically see what song you're listening to. It's kind of like reading a book, like where you could see how many pages you've turned. Same thing where the needle is on the record, and it becomes a lot easier to mentally pace yourself and digest the complete album as the artist intended. And because you can't skip conveniently on a record, I find that I listen to a lot of songs that I would have skipped on streaming and end up really liking them. And some of those songs that I would have skipped immediately end up becoming my favorite. Because vinyl is, let's admit it, expensive and also way less convenient than streaming, it forces you to be much more intentional with the music that you're listening to. And I have pretty much only listening to my about 70 or so records here, but that is plenty of music. But for what I lack in my listening in a quantity, I am making up for in the quality of my listening. And it's just a much more fulfilling experience. Like, there are songs that I've listened to a million times, but because I'm listening to them on like big stinky speakers or my big stinky headphones and just sitting down and focusing on the music, I notice a lot of little details, and it really grabs me in a way that it wouldn't have otherwise if I was just listening to it in the background on Spotify. And I've cried a lot more listening to vinyl records, and I've experienced a much more deeper and grander emotional connection to the music that I'm listening to than I ever have and probably ever will streaming the music, because it demands your attention. And also because it demands your attention, it becomes an incredibly social experience. It becomes very easy to share music because my fiance ordered the new Bleachers album, which, side note, has 4 songs that are exclusive to vinyl. This is an album that I would never listen to on my own. Even if my fiance shared it with me with a Spotify link, those are just too easy to dismiss. But now it's here, it's in my hands, I'm looking at the art, I can read the lyrics, and I can listen to it on a not internet connected device, and where this is the activity, I'll give it a go. I will expand my musical horizons, listen to some indie pop, indie rock thing, which I would never listen to on my own, and I might find something that I really like. And this is something that my fiance Chloe and I can talk about, and I can see what she likes in music, and she can see what I like in music. On top of that, because I listen to a lot of my music on my big stinky speakers, there have been times where Chloe has just like come into my room and been like, oh, what's that song? It's like, well, it's the emo anthem Helena. Or like down here, my friend who buys records doesn't have a record player, just leaves him at my house, tells me, like, hey, you gotta listen to the Cowboy Bebop album. I've never heard it, but it's jazz and I'd probably like it, and I might even want to watch the show after it. Music is something that is extremely important to us. And the more social that we can make it, the better. Like my mom, she was born in 1964. Sorry to expose her like that, but I didn't expect her to know who my favorite band, Dance Gavin Dance, is, because they're just like a local progressive post-hardcore, whatever you want to call it, kind of band. And when I got this record, she was like, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "Oh, that's just more Dance Gavin Dance." Like, it blew my mind that she knows who Dance Gavin Dance was. It was like seeing your teacher play Pokemon or something. Like, oh my gosh. And also streaming is like terrible for artists. These are people who are spending an incredible amount of time and creativity and energy into making these works of art. And with streaming, it becomes not financially viable. Yes, vinyl records are very expensive. On average, if you want a new one, it's like $40. But spending my money in this way where I'm supporting these artists, a lot of them local, a lot of them not very well known, it's a better use of my money, for me, if I buy an album by Makari, who you've probably never heard of, to give them more money so that they can keep making music that I adore. Streaming is such a paradox because you have access to pretty much every song that has ever been recorded at your fingertips, yet because of the algorithm and our own personal preferences, we end up listening to the same things over and over again, and our music selection becomes extremely narrow. Like, my Spotify algorithm pretty much fed me just 3 bands, which was, oh, this guy likes Dance Gavin Dance, Pierce the Veil, and Neck Deep, and that's what he will listen to for the rest of his life. We have so many choices, we just default to what's comfortable. At least this is what I did, but it's like, no. Sometimes I want to listen to the King of Pop, all right? Sometimes I want to listen to meme jazz. Sometimes I want to listen to classical, and these choices become much more readily available and more likely to be chosen when it's physical in our face and we're in a particular mood. Like, how many times have you scrolled through Spotify for like 5 minutes and either just listened to what you always listen to, the same 3 bands or artists, or just close the app? Like, I have never looked at my record collection for more than a minute and not listened to something unless I was reorganizing, which is a whole nother thing in itself. Vinyl records are less convenient than streaming. They're less accessible. They are less financially viable for many people. They give you less choices at your fingertips, and they force you to focus on them, and they demand your attention to appreciate all the work that has gone into them. They are less, but they're also just better, and they are the most minimalist way to listen to music. Now I have to reorganize all my albums because I just shuffled them up for my video.